in association with Leeds Spirit Sam Matty, and we've got hopefully a cracking night ahead of us. We've got a big win at Ibrox for Hibs on Saturday to talk about. We've got a really important game against Dundee to talk about. There was the HSL AGM through the week. And also the Hibs Buzz, and you mentioned that on the Facebook chat earlier on as well. Yep. So we'll hear a wee bit about that as well. But Stephen, you were first on tonight, so we're going to get you to kick us off. Where do you want to start?
It has to be Ibrox on Saturday. From start to finish, just a very, very controlled performance. For me, watching it showed echoes of the defensive performance at Celtic Park in the Cup a few weeks ago, where we never really gave up a huge amount of chances. And when we were in possession for the 34%, whatever it was, we were very, very effective on the ball. And once the first goal went in, I think that the confidence just spread to the team, Matty. When the second goal went in, there was absolutely no way back for Rangers. Just from start to finish, just a very, very controlled performance and a brilliant, brilliant win, especially considering that's Aberdeen and Dundee United both won back-to-back games as well. So it could be, in the end, a very, very vital 3 points.
Well, what do you think was key for Hibs winning that one, about the performance?
Probably say the discipline. I think there was a few of us said last week, if you can get the first goal, especially an early goal, that place will turn quite toxic. And I couldn't really pick it up through the TV, but I would imagine it probably was quite hostile after the goal went in. And like I said earlier, with the confidence that the players are showing just now, getting that early goal probably settled them right down as well. But I think after the goal, Rangers probably had a bit more of the ball than we did. But other than maybe the one chance where Smith made a really good save, which, by the way, I think started off with a free kick in the middle of the park and it was potentially offside, I don't really think Rangers created or breached our backline much at all throughout the entire game. So definitely the early goal bred confidence in the team, and then just the discipline the team showed in managing the game. And I would probably say managing the game is the best way to describe it.
There was a bit of discussion when the team was announced. They kept the same team as started against St Johnstone. Happy enough with that decision?
It's easy to say now, 5 days on, but I think there was a couple of people in the chat said that Kukurevich didn't really do much, but I actually thought watching the game, he didn't get any chances, which is probably just as well, but I'm not sure he would have taken it. But I actually thought watching it on the TV that he seemed to be putting in a shift. He seemed to be getting in their face. He seemed to be trying to break up play, try to get in front of the ball, get in front of the man when the ball came near him. I thought for the hour that he was on, he put in a pretty good shift. And, you know, a performance against St Johnstone where, again, we controlled the match, maybe not the possession, but we controlled the match with all the chances. I'm not really surprised they kept it the same. And I was a wee bit sceptical starting Kukurevich ahead of Bowie. But, you know, it worked in the end. For the hour that he was on, you know, we were ahead for something like 54 of the 60 minutes he was on. So you have to say Davey got it right.
I saw a great wee clip of the first goal. It was from the stands, a Rangers fan, and you talk about the crowd getting toxic. You just hear in the background, "Fuck off, Butland, you fucking diddy."
Aye, that's pretty accurate. Aye. I don't know if he was maybe unsighted for the goal, but it seemed to go through a fair few amount of bodies, and he did catch it pretty sweetly. But a goalkeeper of that standard, you would definitely expect him to save it. And that's not the first one he's dropped in the last few weeks as well. So, but we'll take it. We tend to, in my lifetime, we've been the victim of shite goalkeeper performances in big games, and, you know, dropping clangers. So the more the merrier it comes when it's at the other end of the pitch.
And what did you think of Levitt overall? Like, he got a lot of praise for his performance. You on board with that?
Absolutely, yeah. Again, it's the kind of game that you would imagine he wants to impress in, and he really, really did. He just looked a class above. He never looked phased when he was in possession. He didn't just surrender it. He didn't just rashly pass it away. He just seemed very, very composed and disciplined. And I think Levitt, when he's playing with confidence, you really, really see the quality that he actually has as a player. And yeah, I thought he was outstanding.
How do you see him fitting in going forward? So obviously we brought in Manny, we've got Joe Newell to come back. We're going to lose Chantis next season, but we have brought in Jamie McGrath. Where does Dylan Levitt fit in the team next season?
If he keeps playing at the level he's at, then it's probably more a case for the question is probably more what does Mana have to do, and, you know, Newell and that to get back in the team. Personally, Matty, right now I don't know if he's approaching the final year of his contract, if he's thinking, I need to show what I'm capable of. The club might sell me in the summer to somebody bigger and better. I don't really know, but right now, I think we're seeing the player that we always thought we were going to get. And right now, it's for the others that are not playing to displace him.
Spot on. John, I'm going to bring you in. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, one, the pinch myself moment. I mean, you talked about it on Monday. Victories, Tynecastle, Pittodrie, Ibrox, Celtic at home. Unbeaten against Hearts so far this season. I mean, there's points where I can't believe that the first 11 games happened.
Mm.
The attitude and stuff that's coming through, it is pinch yourself moment. So I've seen the highlights of the game. For those that were there, was Don Robertson as bad as he looked on the highlights in terms of not handing a penalty to Rangers and he could do to help them out in terms of fouls? I mean, the push that Boyle was meant to have made in the lead up to Campbell's chance looked ridiculous. I mean, and it just seemed from the little that I saw that refereeing is the problem that we're going to have going forward. I mean, it's the victory at Ibrox. I mean, I would go into something different, but I think staying in the victory at Ibrox just now, it's a solid defensive core, and we've got a goalie and three centre backs who have just welded themselves. We're being able to change left and right backs as we go, and Levitt and Triantis have themselves. I mean, to be a really, really solid partnership. I think there was a flaky point in the middle, sort of about 30 minutes in, whereas I don't. Has sort of woke up and thought, bloody hell, I'm playing in front of 50,000 folk and we're 1-0 up. I mean, and there was a wee bit of, in the moment, passing it to Lev, 4 Rangers players around him and all that sort of stuff. But other than that, yeah, Dethers doesn't score. I mean, Rangers hit the bar. I mean, so
Yeah.
we have ridden our luck. No, I think we've earned our luck in those because on did the Rangers player have a freebie? It was Rocky that was there. I mean, being a menace to them. So we've made them miss the shots. Just wish Boyle had got that third one at the end. I mean, he's high, and it's like, no, low across the back. Butland's not saving anything down at his feet at the moment.
Do you think we should add a penalty, John?
In the same way as I don't think that Nicky Caddens was a penalty up at Ross County, I don't think that was a penalty. I think that that's one of those that we have to get away from giving. I mean, his arm's just too close to his body. I don't know whether it's ricocheted up. But what we're looking for is the one at Easter Road where the player leans in and moves the arm out to dodge the ball away. Those ones you want to pick up. But no, that's not the spirit. I would change there should be an indirect free kick for a handball that gains you an advantage unintentional. So it'd be interesting to see the indirect free kick for 14 yards out. But that would clear it up and make it easier for referees.
Fair enough.
Foul.
You talked about Rocky there as part of the back three. One player that's maybe gone under the radar a wee bit has been Lewis Miller. So Iredale's kind of got quite a bit of praise. He did the post-match interview and rightly got some spotlight on him because he's been terrific. But what about Lewis Miller in that right centre back position?
It's that idea you Colin mentioned it. I don't like giving Craig any positive comment, given the fact that his game of the day last week wasn't the Hibs defeat or winning at Ibrox. But that idea that we've got a right centre back who's comfortable in that role, it seems ideal. I mean, they seem to understand. Rocky gets to do the hard yards in the middle of just being the defender, and we've got he's comfortable on the right. He's picked up from again. It's a young player growing into a position and getting time in the league, clearly getting support from players round about him. But no, I don't think you would change the back three at the moment.
Mm.
And that's what I was meaning about sort of the goalie and that back three are sort of that unit that everything's built off.
It was Jeff Ashton, who's sometimes on, he asked me to bring it up today, so I'll get like other folks' views on Lewis Miller as well, to see whether folk can change their mind about giving him an extension. Would you be pushing for an extension for Lewis now, John?
I thought Miller was one an option, and the
I think we
answer would
do.
be yes.
Yeah.
Because I think that we're still going to have to see how we come back in the summer, and we're going to find a route through for him if he's good enough in the first team, and getting that sorted out. I'm not sure how he's getting on at the moment, but so we've got strength on that right hand side. But Cadden's had a bit of period injury. Miller had a bit where his form's down. We've got to well. O'Hora and Ekpiteta still to come back into the centre back position. So Miller could be on the right. He's too versatile, too useful, and he's got the physicality and the height for the game in Scotland.
I agree. Right, just going to cut a couple of comments for YouTube. Ian said, good to see Tracy back. And then other Ian says, result. Chris said, evening, folks. Have a good chat, folks. Feel a wee bit delicate. I think Chris was at the Hibs Buzz thing last night. So I hope you're feeling better, Chris. John McGlynn said, evening all. And was Butland not getting tipped as a £30 million goalie, with a big emphasis on the big rabbit ears there, so 30 million. Ian said performance was great, very professional and confident, apart from a couple of half chances. Rangers didn't offer much, but looked hungrier and fought for everything. Kenny said, hi guys, can I just kick things off by saying my first Hibs game was Real Madrid in '64 and followed the team ever since. Never actually felt we were going to lose on Saturday. And Sandy says, good evening, happy Long Bangers fans, because it's a great time to be a Hibie. Tracy, what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, just touch on Saturday. Can't not talk about it, especially living in a Rangers town. I had the tunes blaring before I headed out to a party. I don't know if it was too early for them, but it certainly wasn't for me. And John was obviously loving it, not so much on the Sunday, but but yeah, so I thought, obviously we didn't have a lot of possession, but you don't expect to when you go to Ibrox and Parkhead. And as we all know, possession wins you absolutely hee-haw if you don't do anything with it. But in saying that, I didn't think we were troubled that much either. It seemed quite comfortable. Everybody knew what their jobs were. Everybody did their job. And yeah, just great team performance.
I totally agree with you. I thought like a wee bit towards the end of the first half, I was a bit concerned about Rangers getting back into it. But when we kicked off for the second half, I thought we were so comfortable in the game.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was, Tracy? Like, what is it that's clicking with the team at the moment that's making us? Because we saw it last week against St Johnstone as well, where we never gave them a sniff. That's like, different ends of the table that we've played against. They really look, the most comfortable we've looked all season.
Yeah, I think it comes from Dave, firstly. I think he's just got that mindset, that professionalism. He knows what it means to wear that shirt, and I think he instills that in his players. And obviously, whatever they're doing in training, they're doing wonders, and they're getting the best. Even the likes of players that have been out for long periods are coming back into the team to do their bit, and nobody's having a hissy fit about it. They're just getting on and getting their job done and coming back like brand new players as well. So everybody's doing their job. It seems to be instilled in them what their job is, and they're carrying that out and doing it great.
How important do you think it is to have like the consistency team selection? So it's like a tweak here and there, week to week, if at all.
Yeah. No, it's important because everybody gets to know how each other plays, and I think Dave tries to tweak it based on who we're playing, which is good as well. And obviously you are going to pick up niggles. I mean, we've not really been in the position where we've had a lot of games. Obviously you do in December where you get less recovery, but I think obviously so far this year we've not been too troubled with that. So I think we've had plenty of time to get over niggles that we've had. So yeah, I think it's important. But it's good to see the tweaks as well, and that we're doing it depending on who we're playing.
One of the things that I think would be good to touch on is the scenes at the end of the game. So the players are right over at the fans. Fans are obviously lapping up as we do when we win at Ibrox. But we saw it last week against St Johnstone with the players. A lot of fans stayed back to clap the team off the park. We've had the two sunshine on Leiths. you've spoken before about that sort of like almost a disconnect between the support and the club because of things that were going on at the club. How do you think that relationship is just now?
I think it's probably improved, but I think it's more the relationship between the team and the supporters. I mean, that's just clear to see because obviously they appreciate what's been put on the pitch. They're appreciating the performances they're putting in. I think there'll always be people that maybe aren't happy with things that the club do. And obviously you can see that they're starting to do things. They've got the supporters panel and things like that. So they are trying to look at ways and how they bridge that gap. I think they do have a little bit to go, but I think as a board they need to sort that and make sure that nobody's speaking out of turn, and when they're speaking as one, and that everybody's on board with all the same things. I think that'll come. It seems to be working. And we all know that everything comes from the top, your culture, your environment. So things seem to have settled down, and obviously Dave's instilled that around the place as well. And that's why I always thought he was the best man for the job, because he's so well respected within HTC, and we needed somebody that could pull everybody together, staff, players, and Dave for me was the only one that could do that.
Well, you certainly said that, even when we were going through the really bad spell, you were, steadfast in your defence, Dave, and obviously it's proven to be correct. How do you feel about that now?
Pretty good. Yeah, there was some comments and it's like, oh, your heart's ruling your head, and but the main reason was, we don't want him to lose his legendary status. Well, he's never going to lose that, because he's always going to be that guy that gave us the Scottish Cup, him and Stokesy and, well, the rest of the team. But, he's the guy that inevitably scored that goal. He's never going to lose that. But yeah, I think I would have fought people for over that, like physically. I was protective of Dave, but I knew that he would come good. I mean, I'm privileged. I've been able to work with him, so I know what he's like to work with and how professional he is, and he does smile. But yeah, it's just I always thought he was the right man for the job, and it's good. It's always good when you're proved right, but especially in this situation, because I know he's had a tough time, and it probably hasn't been easy on his family either. The rough times as well, because it's a big transition moving from player to coach, but then to actually be taking the team, that's another big transition again for him and his family. So I'm just glad it's all worked out for him.
The 3 manager of the month, so you can't complain about that. I mean,
Brilliant.
It's terrific. Thanks, Tracy. Ian, I'll come to you next. What have you got for us?
Just at Ibrox then, I'll not comment on Kukarevic, as he just shouldn't be playing. But our back three, as John said, our back three were fabulous. Levitt controlled the game. We were comfortable. On Levitt, it's obvious he just loves the space. And his pass, I think it was in the second half, he made a pass out to the left, and it just was beautiful. It was through quite a tight gap, but it was just tremendous. It's very interesting because I don't think the TV has got the right angle to show just how much Levitt sliced across the ball for his goal. And I can't remember who was talking about it, but we didn't really see that it was going to go in. We didn't see that. All we could see is him taking the shot. And I mean, probably a split second, but I thought, wow, he's sliced right across that ball. He deliberately spun it. So I don't know if that's what caused it to go in, but he deliberately spun it. It was tremendous. He did it deliberately as well. So, I mean, Levitt was great. The 20 minutes of singing at the end, where we get locked in for our own safety, that was brilliant. And it was they left it so long that the players came back on for their warm down, and we were still there. So the Rangers guys the Rangers staff made them go back in until we could leave. But obviously passing the Rangers buses on the way back, that was great. I'm a member of the 2016 branch, and we were, I think, deliberately trying to pass all the Rangers buses. Celebrations were great, as you say, all of them. And our players really wound the Rangers supporters up, which is always good fun. I had a number of Hibby relatives and friends who were messaging me to tell me they can see me on the telly, but I never have any reception at Ibrox, so I didn't get the messages till the end. I mean, what I didn't like, about the game was what happens at Tiny. To the Hearts supporters when we arrived, they come out with their Brit flags and start being sectarian. And unfortunately, we did the same at Ibrox. So suddenly we've got Irish GAA jerseys, Starry Plough T-shirts and flags, tricolours and singing Lizzie's in a box. So none of that has got anything to do with us as Hibs. And as long as we've got supporters just as sectarian as the Huns, then as long as these supporters try and be more Celtic than Celtic, then we're just going to perpetuate sectarianism. I mean, singing ha 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 to the tune of Billy Boys, that's good fun. Singing We Are the People is good fun as well, and singing the praises of Barry Ferguson, they're obviously great. They're all smart and they show sort of Hibs class. But the sectarianism, I can't stand it when I see it. It just pisses me off. But it was good. It was tremendous, Ibrox. It was great fun, and as John said, well, we just looked comfortable. I wanted to bring up a couple of things from the Hibs Buzz last night. I was surprised that Chris Black has not made it. He said, "I'll try and get on the phone in tonight." So Chris Black, if you're out there, then you look perfectly sober. In fact, Chris Black was actually monopolising Dylan McGeoch. And I finally managed to push him out of the way, but to talk to him. But I think Chris was giving him just what he should be doing now in his career. So it was great. It was Jack Ardale, Dylan McGeoch, and Martin Boyle. And so Jack Ardale talked about his three knee reconstructions. I mean, I knew it, but he had them at 16, 17, and 19. But the funny thing was when he talked about his illness when he signed for us. So he said, I was lying on the couch in my boxers, and I can't remember what he had to eat. And his agent called him and said, "How much diesel's in your car?" And he said, "Enough. Where am I going?" He said, "Up to Easter Road." So he got food poisoning basically, and he told us about, and like a good Australian, although he's actually Scottish, but like a good Australian, he didn't spare us the detail of his visits to the toilet on his way up. But what he said was he had 5 stops on the way up, and eventually he signed his contract on a service station in the M6 because he couldn't go any further. His agent kept on telling him just to hold it in and keep going. But Jack was asked, just like at the last Hibs Buzz, Jack was asked about how we turned the corner. And I mean, I've never believed that we turned the corner, but although he acknowledged when he was asked that did the move to the back three, that was a factor. He said it was a factor. He gave the same as the last players at the last Buzz. He said we never felt that we were far away from being good. So, and we've heard that now from coaches. We've heard that from players. So I think it was great to hear that again. Dylan McGeoch, I mean, I love the guy. I thought he was a great player for us. But he spoke about how Tam McCourt and Joyce made him feel comfortable almost immediately. That was lovely to hear that. He spoke about his relationship with Lennon, McGinn, Jason, obviously. He just loves Jason. And Conor Logan, of course, with more Conor Logan stuff. But Dylan was much more diplomatic than the other two. Although it was quite interesting. I mean, he talked about the cup final. He talked about how he wasn't going to be ready. And Stubbsy took him aside. I think it was the day of the game actually, because he'd been struggling with injury. And Dylan said, I don't know if I'm ready. He said, I feel good, but it's your call. And so Stubbsy told him, I think 10 minutes later, we just announced the team and he was in it. And he was really worried about it. And he said that Kevin Thompson took him aside, and Kevin was in the squad. And he said, Kevin took me aside and spoke to me and told me just to go out and play my own game. And he really cooled me down. So he was really, I mean, I'm no great lover of Kevin Thompson, but, it was lovely to hear that Kevin's got that side of him. And it was good. Of course, as you would expect, Martin Boyle was the real fun person. And he explained his diving technique. and his decision making about when to dive and not to dive. So it was fascinating, and I mean he's just hilarious. But It was funny because at Ibrox we were voting on the VAR checks. We were voting on the VAR checks. So they show a clip, and you have to vote on whether you thought VAR was right or wrong, or whether the decision was right. And it was the same as last Hibs Buzz. And Iredale said he pushed Nessers in the back, and he assumed it was going to be a penalty.
Did he?
He said there was going to be a penalty. I was shocked at that. And then when he was asked what Rocky and he had shouted at Dessers, he said, "Oh, we were just asking him if he was okay." But it's just a couple of more things. It's really funny. The superstitions. Boyle talked about his superstition with an avocado. And how him and Doidge used to decide if they were going to score, if they got an avocado. So every match they had to go and Martin Boyle had to go and buy one at Aldi. So and what happened was he forgot one match to go and get one at Aldi. So somebody in the Hibs staff had to go out to Aldi and get an avocado. But it's funny, there's superstitions, because they say that Rocky plays mad French tunes now. And they can't change it because they're all superstitious. Boyle sits in the same seat. He insists that everyone sits in the same seats in the dressing room. It's hilarious.
Mental, isn't it?
It was great. So, I mean, the final thing I wanted to mention was everyone agreed. They all agreed that Obita did not mean the pass to Boyle. They all agreed that. The final one was, when you're asked, would you prefer Hearts to be in the top 6 or not? So Iredale thought about it and said no. Dylan McGeoch, again being diplomatic, said yes, because he wants to see another derby. And Mark Boyle said, I don't give a fuck.
Brilliant. That's the correct answer, really, isn't it? Like, deep down.
Absolutely.
Tremendous. Thanks, Ian. Leon, I'll bring you in next, mate. How you doing?
No bad, mate. How's it going?
Yeah, good. What do you want to talk about?
No, just talk about like the weekend and stuff and how everything's been going. Thought everyone to a man was brilliant. For Ibrox, thought the setup was perfect. Thought the game plan was perfect. I just thought they were in total control of the game. Rangers had as much of the ball as we let them have it. They had their chances, which they're going to create. They're the home team every time you play away from home. If you're up at Ross County, if you're away to St Johnstone, the home team are going to get chances. I thought the management of the coaching staff got it bang on. Didn't think anybody played badly. I thought everybody was brilliant. It's great. I thought brilliant for Levitt getting the goal. It's so refreshing having a manager and coach that's worked with the squad and actually made the squad work.
Aye.
And not just bringing in 6 players every Wednesday. And there's a lot of people shouting about, no overly bad what we're used to, but complaining about the window in January about only bringing 1 player in, but you've no needed to. It's been crazy. I mean, the way he's worked to the defence, the way he's worked to the side in general, and we're switching players out for injured players, for suspended, or no, there's not many suspended, but just for an example, you know what I mean? We're switching players in and out, and the side's looking just as competent, I think. He's finding the balance brilliantly with guys like Bowie and stuff, and even Kucherevich in general. He's putting him in to do the minutes when the others can't. And regardless if you play on well, if somebody else comes in and doesn't play, you then get another chance again to come in. I do feel like he's like put anybody out and being like, right, you're not good enough, you're not getting involved. They've trimmed the squad in January as well, getting rid of players. And I feel like everybody in the squad now has got something to give and is part of it. And it's just really refreshing. It's really good.
I think it's a great point you make about working with the squad, because we've seen however many managers over the last few years, and it has been a case of, we're not getting anywhere, just, bench those players and then sign a whole load to come in, and it's like that constant churn. Whereas I think you're spot on, Leon, we've not had that churn. 1 player in January, but you can definitely see, can't you, like the improvement in individual players over the course of the season? It's
changed my opinion on everyone as well with Hibs. Like, it really has. As in, I mean, I was always, everybody calls me a happy clapper all the time and stuff like that. I've got, obviously, I've got a reputation like that, but I was, even guys at Levitt, I fell into my own mistake of writing them off, which I would never ever do before. And it was more the fact that I was like, I felt there was a group of players that weren't contributing, but I never knew the ins and outs. I'm there. I made the comment of being like, oh, players aren't contributing, kind of, it's maybe what's at the time when we were struggling, thinking that's maybe what's causing the issues with the squad and not getting results, stuff like that. But I'll never again, ever write a player off again. I mean, I didn't do it often, do you know what I mean? But especially when you've got a manager like David Gray, who's clearly, well, I never knew what kind of manager he was going to be. But for seeing what he's doing, I mean, and how it just seems like the whole atmosphere in the club has changed. And I mean, for every level, for the fan base, to even behind the scenes, and the squad itself, the players, you can just see they're fighting for each other and they're playing for each other, and everybody knows their role, and it's so good.
We talked about a wee bit about this on the podcast before, but that sort of team spirit. It's like the players themselves. I don't want to take credit away for Gray, but it's like the players demand it of each other. You see it on the pitch, like if somebody makes a mistake, they get bawled out by the other players, but also get encouraged. It's like there's a real togetherness, but there's also like this is the standard, and you're not allowed to drop for it now, which I don't think we've seen at Hibs for a long time.
Working Boyle into a striker role, and we've seen him out there before, and there's always been that debate. Oh, he's never a striker. He's made a winger, and he's actually. And people arguing, I think he's a better up front. I think he's better wide. And they've put him in and found the position and an actual tactical role for him too. Not just sticking him up there and saying, right, get behind. But the way he plays for the side, and they're getting the best of him. Now they're probably getting. This is probably one of the best spells he's had at the club, easily. And the way that the team's playing around him, how he's influencing the team, and obviously his goal return, and his assists and stuff. And that alone, I mean, right through the spine of that team, the way he's got it working is unbelievable.
You mentioned at the start you were pretty positive that things would turn around. You know, even when things were bad, you kind of stuck with it. Obviously, like the stats in that backed you up as well. You know, if you look at like the XG through that time, like it showed exactly what you were saying. That we weren't far away. You mentioned it as well. The players and the coaches and that could all see that they weren't far away. If you go back to that thing, what was it that gave you that faith? Because a lot of folk didn't they? Like, I mean, there was a lot of like I come away from Dens Park when we got that the 4-1. I think Gray's not going to last the season. Like, I thought the writing was on the wall. The players looked like they chucked it. Didn't they? Until we got to the man sent off. Like, we started that game well, but as soon as the red card happened, like they just fell to bits, and I couldn't see how they were going to turn that around. What was it about the team that gave you the belief, Leon, that it would turn around?
That there, what you said, like the amount of games that we do forget. Some of the games that we came away even drawing, that we were like, oh, we should have won that, right? Now we had at least 4 or 5 of those games in that game, in that first 11, just say that we should have won, that we should have got 3 points for. Now, if we had won 4 of those games instead of drawing, the whole table would have looked different for the start. Would have been more mid-table, and it was just that. I've never seen really bad performances. We had the bad performance at Dundee, obviously, but that started off well, and it started off controlled, and obviously the big concern was the way it was collapsing at times. And that was your worry, that are these players mentally, are they able to roll with the punches, essentially? And I think that when you were looking at these games on their own, individually, that's what was worrying me. Because there was every game that was coming up about, we were doing what we used to do. The next 3 games, if we get this amount of points, we'll be all right, we'll get a kick, blah, blah, blah. We weren't saying we need to get a point or 2 in the next 3 games. We were saying if we win the next 3 games, because a lot of folk could see it, but I think they were just worrying, and they wouldn't want to admit that. And we've seen it too many times. I think it's I guess a bit like PTSD with people. You know what I mean? It's like that they've had issues before with managers, Hibs going on a really bad run, and then instinctively being like, we need to change the manager, because it's just been the way it's happened. And I think that it's like Hibs fans had a wee time they were going through, they would smell blood, and they'd be like, that's it. The sharks are coming, that's it, the blood's there. Let's change the manager. But I don't know, maybe it was a bit of just blind faith, but I didn't I just don't know, I just wasn't as worried. I knew we were only going to go down, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I knew that everybody was happy with that, right? But I would have taken, like, this is ridiculous, right? But I would have taken 7th place. See, I would have been like, do you know what? See if I just like, because I was always had this thing in my head about actually, I was convinced there was going to be a rebuild in the summer. The summer coming. So I was like, if we can get into a position where we're just levelling out, then we finally get players off the wage bill, we can bring guys in, we can actually give David something to work with, that we would be all right. And I was convinced we could get that. I think we could get that. But what he's done's again unbelievable. Now, I wasn't there's me, I've seen on Twitter a few times. I've got them saved because I'm obviously like I love showing off when I'm right? But essentially saying things like, see after like we got draws and things like that, being like saying if we lost a game, I would some of it was being joking, right? And I was saying things like, well, that's us probably not getting third, right? And I was obviously trying to get a bite for people and be a bit of wind up. But I was convinced that you're never that far away in this league. And I kind of been on a wild run. But even teams like St Mirren, and I mean, Dundee for a while still looked like they could be top six comfortably. And now they're at the bottom end. And I think people forget how tight this league is. That you can win 2 games in a row, or you can win 2 games out of 4, and you jump up 2 spaces. So anyway, that was that.
So, John, you put your hand up. I'll bring you in here.
Well, I think Leon's right. I mean, the performances were there, but I think part of the problem at that part of the season for the fans was how disjointed everything was with the club. I mean, in terms of we hadn't got top 6 last season, we got rid of a manager after we were keeping him. We then appointed Malcolm Mackay, and it was like, is that the chairman's friend? We didn't get it right in the League Cup and get Celtic away. We have Bill Foley questioning what's going on. We've then got what looks like a very in-house team that have been brought in terms of the back room, in terms of Eddie May and others. So it's in terms of when you were looking at the results and what was happening on the pitch, it was a combination of what the results that we were seeing and what we had seen in terms of the lead up, because it didn't. You could probably throw the word it didn't look that professional in terms of how we'd done it. I mean, it's turned out differently. I think that there's been a lot of really consistent voices on here saying, yeah, we have the confidence in Gray, we have confidence in his professionalism, standards that he'll set and what he'll do. But where we didn't have confidence was professionalism around about the club and what they were doing. And that was pushing into that idea that, yeah, Dundee United up to 83 minutes and that tackle by Newell, we were costing that game. I mean, there was 2 minutes, there was things like that. And so, I mean, at Dundee, the conversation I had with somebody after that was, I want Gray to stay, but we need a different voice in the room. But the players did that themselves. I mean, because you're looking for something to change. You don't want Gray to change, but you need them to hear something else and move in a different direction. But I think that the way in which the club handled it didn't help anything.
Tracy, Tracy, you got your hand up?
It was just when you started talking, that was like practically 1 week. Do you remember that one? I mean, that was probably one of the best. It probably wasn't funny for some, but it was just, that was a week where we sacked our manager. We brought in Malcolm Mackay. We had statements for certain groups saying that they were never coming back unless he got sacked. Then Mikey Stewart came out and said about Hanlon Stevenson's families. And then they left. Obviously, it was our last game. Then there was rumours about certain people on Twitter. And I mean, you could write a book just about that week. It was just absolutely crazy. And you were like, what is actually going on here? So I think as well, but then maybe that is credit to the club, the way they've now turned things around and are starting to look more professional as well with their communications that are coming out. There's people that are actually putting their names to things. And it's not to hold those people accountable, but it's actually, I think, a bit nicer because I think we lost a bit of that from Ben not coming out as the CEO and saying things, which I'm not having a go at, because I think the personal abuse and attacks to him were just, there's no need for that. Yes, you can be criticised the job if you don't like the job that he's done, but I think when you start getting personal, it's just not right, and I think he had to take a step back from that. But yeah, I think that week was just something else. So to think about that week and where we are now, that's actually quite huge.
there's a lot of it's about like taking a step back and not being reactionary, is it? Especially with things like we talked with Malky Mackay back at the time when he was getting grief for like the transfers that come in and some of the decisions, and folk were saying he's failed. And actually, I think the point we made was you kind of tell already, like the work that Malky Mackay is doing. You're almost looking like a year down the line before you see the impact of it. So we're maybe starting to see the start of it now. No, that I would give Malky Mackay the full credit for where we are. But things like that, things like the relationship with the Black Knights wasn't going to be like a switch getting pressed and then going from things being terrible to things being brilliant. It was always going to be like a gradual process. And I think maybe we're sort of coming out the other side of that.
I think people are too quick to jump on. Sorry, I think people are too quick to jump on what people have done in the past, and want to, and he'd done all that. It was a long time ago. I've not had to work with him, but I would imagine that he's come in, made difficult decisions that other people maybe weren't willing to step up and do. And I think he's probably been good for Dave as well. So I think you do have to give him credit for some things. Obviously, we're never all going to know what's going on behind the scenes, but I think he has had an impact, and a positive one, which a lot of people will disagree with. But I do think he has been, well, he's obviously been on this journey with them, and I think he's had a positive impact.
I think that extends to Ian Gordon as well. Ian Gordon's much maligned, like he's come under a lot of flack, and I think some of the actions that he's taken since the summer has helped get us to where we are as well. So I think there's a lot of people deserve credit for it. Ian, you've got your hand up just before I come here. I'm just going to make a quick point because we're going to move us on to the Hibernian panel, the fans panel, in just a second, get some thoughts on that. But if you're watching this not live and you've had adverts mid-roll, or if you're listening to this on the podcast, I believe the adverts get really loud compared to how we sound. You can skip the adverts altogether, right? If you go to our Patreon, you can sign up and subscribe. You get no adverts at all. We do have like a £1.50 option where you didn't get all the subscriber content, but you do get this stuff without any adverts as well. So there is a way around it, or you can sign up on YouTube as well, and you didn't get any adverts. Sorry for the wee sales pitch there, but just some folk had mentioned the adverts to me through the week, and I was like, right, you didn't have to have them. There are ways around it. Ian, sorry, you had your hand up there and I butted in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're now revisiting stuff from a long time ago. So I remember you asked me, I've just looked it up. You asked me on the 3rd of December, what do you think the problem is? And I said the problem is the supporters. Because with so many people that were just mouthing off all the time. And obviously, I think John and I were both commenting at the time that we thought that things were actually okay. Because obviously we were going to all the games. So on the 3rd of December, I thought the problem was the supporters, but I think the supporters have just backed off. I don't get involved in the sort of personal side of social media or anything like that. So I just go to the games and think about the games and enjoy the games. But I've always enjoyed, all the season. I've enjoyed watching us. There's been very few games where there's been nothing to enjoy.
And you've been consistent with that as well. When you talk about the games after you've been to them, you have you've said that after each of them, kind of picked out the positives for them, even in the games they've not done particularly well. And
I spoke to Dylan McGeoch about this last night. And of course, Dylan McGeoch, when I started talking to him, I suddenly realised he's no idea who Alan Gordon was. So I had to sort of point out that I used to go and watch Alan Gordon play because just watching him was enough for the entertainment. And I said the same with Hugh McGeoch. Yeah.
Dylan was a cracking player for us.
Yeah.
I meant to say, Ian, it's very impressive that you've kept that top in as good condition. And almost impressive that it still fits you, because I have the same top and it's still in good condition. But it does not fit me as well as that one fits you.
I came over from America for the final at Hampden, and I bought this top outside, and then I took it back to the States with me, and everyone thought it was a Liverpool top. They thought it was a Liverpool change top.
Into the Carlsberg.
Yeah.
Well, when I got it, the one I had was way too big for me, and it is still way too small for me now. So it sits in a sits in a drawer somewhere. Right, the Hibernian Supporters Panel is an initiative that Hibs launched last week. They're looking for applications for it. This is a chance for 15 Hibs fans to go and, I suppose, be a bit of a sounding board for the club to run stuff past. I just wondered, does anybody have any kind of views on it that you want to bring up just now? Doesn't matter if you didn't like, we can move on to something else. But I was just curious as to kind of whether folk thought it was good or bad or indifferent.
Yeah, Colin obviously, Colin mentioned Tracy, actually. I realised Tracy was just about to come in there, but Colin mentioned Tracy, and he was saying that, and of course Colin then said, yeah, honest here, I wasn't talking about you, and I said there was people that went on it. Colin said there was people that went on it just to learn stuff and stuff like that. But I think you then pointed out that when we did working together, we had, and it was actually quite good you remembered that, because you and I were, it was funny because Matty and I were actually working on, believe it or not, something called it was the fan lifetime life cycle or something like that. And it was very much a marketing thing about how people migrated from being an initial somebody who went along as a guest or whatever. And so it was very interesting. So working together worked very well in terms of the work that we did. But this, obviously the support we had just sort of from the board just disappeared eventually.
Tracy, I knew you were going to come in. Stephen's got his hand up, so I'll get Stephen and then I'll come to you, Tracy.
No probs.
Yeah, Matty, just on it. My life cycle as a Hibs fan started off as a season ticket holder in the famous 5 Law in the family section. Had that right through until I was a student, finished uni, and then because of price rises, I dropped it for a couple of seasons and then resumed it again and then dropped it after the COVID season. So I think it's a great idea. The reason I didn't renew after the COVID season, you'll probably recall, to try and get us all to renew, they said that, when restrictions ease, you'll get access to the training ground, money off tops, all this sort of stuff. Because obviously the restrictions stayed in place for the first full season under COVID, we didn't, I think, other than the 300 that got to go to a couple of games at the end of the season, none of us got to see any football in person at all. I didn't renew, and I didn't hear anything from the club until about the October the season after, asking why I didn't renew. So I think this kind of stuff's great. I've put myself forward now. I've not renewed since then. I've got married and had a kid, so I've not renewed since. So I've applied for it in the sense that to try and tempt people like myself to come back, and hopefully, when the kid or the kids are a little bit older, I will go back. But I certainly think it's a great idea. But it needs to be not just a sounding board; it needs to actually have positive action at the end of it as well, I would say.
Spot on. Tracy, John, you had up. I'll come to you after I've spoken to Tracy.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, obviously I was lucky to have been on the board with as a supporters rep, and that was a different kind of time as well, and I really enjoyed that. And we always took things that supporters wanted us to the board. We were always in throughout the whole board meeting as well. We were classed as non-exec directors, which I think was good, but it also had probably its downsides, because when you're on the board, sometimes what's right for the club isn't necessarily what supporters think's right as well. So then it's trying to get that balance right. So maybe the supporters panel's a better way going forward as well, that you can get opinions from different people. But I hope it is a lot of different people, and I think it is. Hopefully, people, like yourself, Stephen, that's looking to want to come back and renew their season tickets. And it's not just maybe people that can afford to be in corporate or whatever. I think we need people from corporate. We need people from the stands, people who maybe haven't renewed. We need a really good mixture of supporters on that panel. Otherwise, it's never really going to work. I always remember one time we talked about season ticket prices, and I did manage to get it reduced. It might only been about £20, but I felt quite chuffed that they'd actually listened, because it was to do with the family section. I was like, people can't really afford, when they've got 2 and 3 kids, because, it's not just coming to the game, it's in the food, it's everything else that comes with it. And they did take £20 off it, which I know isn't a lot, but I thought, well, at least then they actually sat and listened to reasoning at that. But I think it's just important that we have a broad range of supporters. I know it's only 15 supporters, and it's good that the board are going to be interacting with that panel, and hopefully they'll maybe get staff as well. I think it's good for me. I liked going into the ticket office. I loved seeing how they did things. I love seeing how people set up on a match day. I think it really does give you good insight, because we complain about so much on the other side, but when you actually see how things are done, you really do appreciate the hard work that these people, do to provide us with a service, and how they put a match on.
On John.
I think the danger for me is that they're trying to choose 15 people, but you don't know what they're going to look at. What I mean, Stephen's topic there, trying to find people who, for whatever reason, have moved away from the club, haven't found it easy to renew, haven't found it easy to come back. That sounds like a really great topic for this group to take on, but that doesn't mean that the 15 that you might choose as a generalist group is the right 15. I've had a season ticket since the East opened. I mean, I've been fortunate for that because my son was he was 10, so we've gone right through. So I'm not the person to sit on that, because I've got no understanding, I mean, of what has drawn people away. Now, I know what drew me away 20 years ago when kids were wee and when I was younger, but nothing current. So I think it would be more useful for them to set out what they're looking to achieve and almost have 12 to 18-month tenures on specific topics and bring people in who can be knowledgeable and can do that. I mean, if you're going to talk about the pies in the stadium, I mean, which is as good or the peri fries or whatever.
That was common for Frank and I, that in the water in the toilets.
Right. But so you've got, but these are things. Now, my son's a butcher, works in Lawson's, does their pies, I mean, in a Paul, I mean, he could come in and give ideas. They can't, they do Broxburn, I mean, and it's a big thing. But what is there in the local area? You would want specific people who have knowledge of that area and knowledge of hospitality, I mean, to come forward with what options you can have. That's my worry with it, is that to represent the support, so you've got 15 slots. Are you going to look at demographics? What's your gender split? How are you defining gender? I mean, what's your age split? I mean, so you can very, very quickly get there that there's going to be one person from each demographic, I mean, who's going to be on that to make it right. But that one person may not have the skill set to represent that group. So, yeah, I think set the themes up first and bring the right people in to look at it.
That's got an interesting point. Certainly when we're working together, Ian, you remember this, they had like a big group of volunteers, but then they split us into different topics, and you kind of went to the one that sort of best suited what you were. It was actually, as you say, it was actually suited our skills. So I ran a marketing company at the time, so that's why I was interested in customer life cycle and customer lifetime value. So that was perfect for me. But I agree with John. I thought where John was going to go with that was that a generalist panel. I agree. That's that's what he said. But I thought what John was going to say was that the topics that they're allowed to focus on might not be suitable. So in other words, if the club doesn't give the panel anything of substance. That, as Tracy said, Tracy, that 20 quid, it might not sound like a lot, but it was effective. Tracy did her job, but that was a sub member, right? That's a board member. Tracy was a board member, and the fan panel cannot be treated as if it's just, it can just talk about the match day experience, whatever. I've also applied, like Stephen. I've applied, but. And I'll try and beat Stephen. I'll try and beat him so that I get on and he doesn't. But I don't know how you apply, Stephen. I wrote it as OP, and it's almost like I can contribute by doing this. I can do this. So it was very much a sort of where I think I can have an impact, and I think that's very important. As the club has got to give the supporters panel something meaty. Thanks, Ian. Leon, is you having a wee strobe light situation there a wee minute ago? I think what was happening there, but my eyes started twitching.
I know, and it was definitely it must be the tablet or something I'm using, because I was looking around being like, what the fuck? They fucking lights on here, okay, you know what I mean? Like, but just to follow on, like what Ian and John and that were saying, and Tracy, sorry, I'd be interested to see what his use is, what it actually does. I don't want to be cynical, but I don't know if this has been something that's just been put there just to keep folks fucking shut, keep their mouth shut, because there's been obviously this would have been discussed about doing this a while ago. They've not just came up with this idea a month ago. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know if maybe this was discussed as an idea to promote, obviously getting the fans involved more and stuff like that, and getting their ideas across when we were in the shit, essentially, and folk were going after the board and all that. So be interesting to see what is discussed, what kind of topics they're allowed to discuss and not make decisions on, but put to the board to make decisions on. So I'm quite interested in seeing how it evolves, but I'm not sure. I don't know if it will evolve.
Well, they certainly said at the AGM, the board said the communication with the fans hadn't been good enough, and this is maybe like one of their,
I agree with
key actions to get better. Ian, your hand up, so make your point, and then you can kick us off talking about the Dundee game on Sunday as well once you've done it.
Okay. I think the important thing is that, certainly our branch, the 2016 branch, our convener has actually told us about the panel. And obviously what the club have done, the club have actually said we're going to have fan groups, representatives, as well as that. And what's happened is obviously somebody's mentioned on the chat just now, the fact that Block 7 still haven't turned their banner around the right way, right? And maybe that is one of the objectives of the fan panel, is to actually get them to turn their banner around the right way.
You didn't want them to do that, Ian, because that'll change the form.
Aye, superstitions and everything, just leave it as it is.
You know what? Turn that upside down, back to normal, sorry.
It was actually really funny at Parkhead when they had to move because they were running in the front, and the stewards made the move, but they ended up in a much better place up high. They were really good. But anyway, I think Block 7 have done a great job this year. As far as Dundee's concerned, I think the only one thing that's worth talking about is obviously Simon Murray. I wish we'd signed Simon Murray at the start of the year. It's what we've missed all year. But it's whether Rocky can treat him in the same way that he was successful against Dessers, because Rocky really owned Dessers in terms of his body shape, in terms of his robustness. Simon Murray is himself very robust. Simon Murray is going to need a lot more effort. So, as far as Dundee's concerned, I think they're dangerous at corners. We have to win. Your discussion the other day. I think momentum is the most important thing. I think we can win. I think we just have to control Simon Murray, and my feeling is that we will win. I'd be very surprised if they don't score. But you were right against Rangers, and I was wrong because I said 2-1 and you said 2-0. So, but I think we'll win.
Nice one. I'll get a score prediction off you just at the end as we wrap up. I think that was the first prediction I got right last weekend or season, potentially since the podcast started. Tracy, how are you feeling for Dundee on Sunday?
Yeah, I was actually nervous for Saturday's game, just because it was Rangers, and I think everybody thought, oh well, we can jump above Hibs because we're playing Rangers. In fact, it was my mum that told me you can't go in with that mindset. I was like, okay, coach. It doesn't matter who you're playing, you have to go in knowing you're winning. I says, well, we're obviously going to go in thinking we can win it. Otherwise, there's no point showing up.
Listen to your mum.
But this is the same woman, but during COVID, she said, we were sitting watching the game and she goes, I thought you said people weren't allowed in the stadiums. I was like, Mum, they're cardboard cutouts. And thought behind the goals was actually a table and chairs sitting outside behind the goals on the pitch. So, sorry, Mum, because she does like the long baggers. But yeah, I'm confident. I think we'll do our homework. I think the lads will be up for it. It's a game before the split, isn't it?
Yeah, last one.
Just crazy. Feels like it was taking forever for the season, and now we're just nearly at the end. So yeah, not confident. I think 3-1.
Cool, John.
We go into the game at the end of the weekend knowing exactly what everybody else has done. Hopefully the players just go in and motor through. I mean, Dundee have started fast against us down at Easter Road the last time. Simon Murray scored a fairly special goal, taking the channel ball, you know what I mean, on the inside and hitting it. His goal against Rangers was quite good. So yeah, we have to worry about Murray. Again, we've got a good solid back three. We're expecting them to be able to close stuff out. I think it'll be about what we create at the other end. And I think that Boyle, being on the form that he's on at the moment, he's got a wee goal scoring run going. Hopefully he can keep that going. And I think that's the important thing, is what we do. And I think it's for us to score 2 or 3 goals, and it makes no difference what they do.
I think your point about us knowing what other teams have done is good. Because the team's shown recently they cope with pressure. Like we've been in some big games and come out not just with the result but with the performance as well. So you almost like know that if Aberdeen win, is there a game against Rangers on Sunday as well? Or
Yeah, they play at lunch.
So if Aberdeen win, you trust it not to affect the players that they think, oh shit, that's us, we've not got any hope of like getting back into third. But if they didn't win, you fancy the players to take advantage and create a bit of a gap. Leon, how do you see it going?
I'm obviously confident. I'm not confident we'll win. I'll always go there confident that we'll put in a good performance at the moment. I think we've got to outscore them. They score loads of goals. They also concede loads of goals. So I'm just hoping that we score one more than them. And that would be absolutely happy with that. We get 3 points against Dundee, and if Aberdeen drop any points, we are like massively close to getting third, I think. Because we should be able to match their performances in the top 6, there or thereabouts, and then I'll be down to playing them up at Aberdeen, which I think we can match. I think we can beat them up there. So I'm pretty happy with how we're going. So I'd say a 3-2 Hibs.
Right, 3-2 Hibs. Stephen?
Aye, I would agree with pretty much everything that Leon said there. They score a lot, but they concede a lot, and I think they've actually won 2 of the last 3 against United and St Mirren, and probably should have beat Rangers. So there is potential for a banana skin. We have struggled somewhat in 2 games this season, 1 out of 6 points. But I'm with Leon. If we can get the odd goal in, out of 5, I'm happy with that. So I'll go both teams to score, but Hibs to maybe get it 3-1 in the end.
3-1. Right, Leon, you said 3-1. John, what did you say?
I'll say 2-0.
2-0. Tracy?
I say 3-1.
3-1. And Ian?
Yeah, 2-1.
2-1. All right.
And Leon was 3-2.
3-2. Sorry, Leon. Making it a duller game. 3-2. One for the entertainers.
I mean, I could say it's about 3-0 because the defence is brilliant, but I just feel like Dundee have got a wee bit on us some now and again, and I'd like to get one over them on them as well, though, because I feel like both the games that we played them, it's the rugby green went their way. So I'd like to get one over on them.
Nice one. Well, we'll be back tomorrow to preview it. So around about 4 o'clock live on YouTube, I've been Colin talking it through. If you want to submit a team, a few folk have done it already. You can email us at longbangers@gmail.com. Sandy, you've got your team already. I know you're watching just now, and Callum as well submitted a team. So if you want to get a team included, just drop us a wee email. But we will see you there. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for everybody for coming on. It's been great having you on to speak about it. Hopefully we'll be back with another one to talk about on Sunday evening when we do Long Bangers. Thanks very much. We'll see you all next time.